Hello and guten Tag, mein Freunde! I'm Peter and here I'm telling you stories about the most interesting European cars of the 80s and 90s. Today we are talking about a truly rare German car that looked like a Ferrari and was really interesting but a little undervalued. The bitter SC. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe to my channel to never miss a new video. And if you already subscribed, thank you so much. Now let's get to the car. The bitter SC was produced from 1981 to 1989. In total, only 488 cars were sold, which makes it a much rarer car than, say, the Ferrari F40. But this number actually wasn't that bad for a small independent manufacturer, given that the car was rather expensive. The SC was based on the platform of the Opel Senator, the largest Opel car at that time, and the SC stands for Senator Coupe, which was the basic idea of the car, despite its very different appearance from the Opel Senator. Bitter Automotive itself was named after its owner, Erich Bitter, who was a retired racing driver and started production of racing and road cars at the end of the 60s. The company was located in Schwelm in western Germany, in Rhine-Westphalia region. At first, Erich Bitter partnered with an Italian company Intermeccanica that produced racing and replica cars. That partnership didn't last long, and in 1971 he decided to start his own production using his connection to Opel and its owner, General Motors. The first Bitter car was the Bitter CD, with CD standing for Coupe Diplomat. It was obviously based on the Opel Diplomat platform. It was born as Opel's own concept car, and Opel planned to produce it, but it never happened. So that car was developed in close cooperation between Erich Bitter and Opel's design and engineering teams. And actually, in 1971, it was David Holz, Opel's design boss, who encouraged Erich Bitter to build the Bitter CD, when it became clear that the concept of the coupe car wouldn't make it into production. The Bitter CD was relatively successful considering the oil crisis concerns of the 70s, with 395 cars sold. But in 1977, Opel finished production of the Diplomat, and Bitter needed a new model on a new platform, which was the Opel Senator. At that time, General Motors changed its approach to collaboration with independent manufacturers, and Erich Bitter didn't have Opel's team support for the new car. So he had to organize his own development with the involvement of multiple subcontractors, which required a lot of time and money. But he managed to do that somehow, and the car was shown first in 1979. The official presentation to the public happened at the 1980 Monaco Formula 1 Grand Prix, where the Bitter SC was a safety car, and production started at the beginning of 1981. The initial image of the Bitter SC was drawn by Erich Bitter himself. Later, the design was improved by Opel's designers Henry Haga and George Gallion, and finally refined in Turin by famous Giovanni Michelotti, who also designed many Ferrari, Alfa Romeo, Lancia, Maserati, and Triumph cars. The idea of the car was to combine an Italian-looking stylish exterior and interior luxury with German engineering and reliability. As a result, the Bitter SC had a lot of resemblance with the Ferrari 400, and looked very nice and elegant despite being a large, long and heavy car with a length of about 5 meters, or 193 inches. Bitter was going to sell it on the American market too, so the car had large bumpers compatible with American requirements and pop-up headlights. Most cars were built and sold as two-door coupes, but in 1983 a two-door convertible was introduced, and 22 of them were built in total. Also, a four-door sedan with a longer body became available in 1985, but only 5 of them were sold. Among all produced cars, 29 were made for UK customers, with the right-hand steering wheel. Bitter didn't have a capability to produce bodies for his cars, so he engaged with external body makers. For the first CD model, it was German coach builder Bauer, known for very good quality. But they couldn't accommodate the production of the SC model, because they were fully loaded producing the BMW M1 for BMW. Bitter found a small and young Italian company Okra, and they produced the bodies for the Bitter SC during the first years. Unfortunately, their quality was very poor, as well as rust proofing. Later, Bitter moved the production to Maggiora, which also built bodies for Maserati. And in 1983, the production was switched again to Steyr-Puch in Austria, which finally solved the body quality issues. Pre-built bodies were delivered to Bitter's factory in Schwelm, where the car was finally assembled. Bitter also used many Opel parts, particularly for the drivetrain and suspension, and some parts from other cars. For example, taillights from the Lancia Beta Monte Carlo and headlights of the Ferrari Mondiale, which I have another video about, by the way. Most cars had a rear-wheel drive, like the Opel Senator, but Bitter did build several four-wheel drive SCs together with the British company Ferguson Research. Inside, the Bitter SC offered its owners a very comfortable and good-looking interior space, trimmed with high-quality Italian leather and real wood inserts. The leather parts were made by the same company that made them for Maserati, so the quality and touch feel were top-notch. The SC used the dashboard from the Opel Senator, but it was elevated by covering it with leather and giving it a better look. The car was roomy inside with enough space for 4 adults, and even the rear seats were spacious and comfortable enough for full-size passengers, which isn't always the case for two-door cars. The seats were comfortable and designed mostly for long trips, not track driving, so they could lack a sporty feeling, but you could spend your time in your Bitter SC with comfort and style all day, every day. The car also had a large trunk where you could fit your luggage going to a long cross-continent drive. In addition, Bitter sold an optional set of suitcases designed to fit perfectly in the trunk and use all its space ideally. But one of the areas where the Bitter SC probably missed its perfection was its engine. The only option was a straight 6-cylinder engine from the Opel Senator, but it was offered in several variants throughout the production run. Using it was a kind of downgrade from the previous CD model. The Bitter CD had a 5.4-liter V8 engine with enough power and torque for its time. But Opel didn't have a V8 engine for the Senator, and the space in its engine bay was rather limited. So Eric Bitter had to use the largest available option, a 3-liter naturally aspirated straight 6-cylinder engine with 170 horsepower. It was clear that its output was not enough for the large and heavy SC to be a really fast and sporty car. The top speed was 215 km or 134 miles per hour, and the car made 0 to 60 miles per hour in 8.3 seconds with the manual transmission and around 9 seconds with the automatic one. It wasn't that bad for that time, but the car lacked torque and low revs, and it felt underpowered for its price, particularly compared to the Ferrari F40 with its over 300 horses offered in the same price segment. Eric Bitter looked for several ways to solve this problem. Installation of a turbocharger wasn't possible due to the lack of space and overheating concerns. Today those issues probably could have been solved with a rear-mounted turbo setup, but the level of the forced induction technology of the 80s wasn't suitable for that. Bitter tested smaller V8 engines from Lamborghini Huracan and Holden, but they were too expensive and had overheated and exhaust issues in the SC. Finally, it was decided to increase the displacement of the engine up to 3.9 liters in collaboration with the tuning company Mansell, specialized in Opel tuning. This version appeared in 1984 and produced from 200 to 210 horsepower according to different sources, with a massive 50% increase in torque. In 1985, it was refined and fine-tuned by Porsche and started using a catalytic converter and an oxygen sensor. That engine is the third largest straight-six engine installed in a mass-produced passenger car ever, after the 4.2 Jaguar XJ, which I have another video about, and the 4-liter MC Jeep. The appearance of this version of the engine resulted in a top speed of 230 km or 143 miles per hour and 0 to 60 miles per hour time of 7.4 seconds. Still a little slower than the Ferrari, but Bitter's engine were more reliable in the long run. An additional benefit of this update was the awesome exhaust sound of the car. It literally sounded like a V8 engine being a 6-cylinder one, with all the smoothness of the straight-six arrangement. So, if you look for a Bitter SC, try to buy one produced in 1985 and later, with a 3.9 engine. That was the best version of them, with all body and engine issues solved. The car was offered with a 5-speed manual gearbox and a 3-speed automatic transmission, which didn't change during the whole production run. Manual cars were more engaging and dynamic,
But most of real-world customers prefer comfort over driving experience, so most SC were produced with automatic transmission.
In terms of driving experience, the Bitter SC was good enough, but maybe not breathtaking. It lacked a V8 engine, but the 3.9 version of its 6-cylinder engine provided enough torque and power to feel comfortable on an autobahn. It wasn't very fast and sporty, but it wasn't slow at all compared to the majority of other cars on European roads at that time. The suspension was a little too soft, and the body leaned a little too much in fast corners. But it wasn't a sports car developed for the track. It was a luxury Grand Tourer designed for comfortable driving across the whole of Europe, impressing everybody around by its stylish and unique appearance. The car was safe with good brakes, fast steering, which could have been a little sharper, and slight controllable understeer. The Bitter SC provided a very smooth ride in a very comfortable environment and gave a lot of positive impressions to its driver and passengers. In addition, it was very solidly built and put together with high-quality materials and parts, particularly in the latest years of production. So, even if it wasn't very sporty, it was really enjoyable with its own unique charm.
The Bitter SC was developed with a great idea as a combination of Italian-looking design with German quality and tech, the best of all worlds. But that great idea had some harsh times with the reality check in the first years of production. The car was underpowered and had body quality issues, being very expensive at the same time. In today's money, its price was from 250 to 400,000 US dollars, and there were a lot of interesting offers in the 80s in this price range. In the last years of production, the Bitter SC got better quality and better engines, partly justifying its high price, but it was a little too late. Eric Bitter's company had financial struggles and relied more on investors' money than on revenue from sales. So, unfortunately, the Bitter SC became the last mass-produced car of one of the most successful and interesting small independent car manufacturers of the 80s. The company continued its existence through the 90s and 2000s, but it produced only one-off and concept cars and never came back to full-scale production again. But now, the SC, with its unique story, small production numbers, and a really interesting appearance, gained a kind of cult status, which it truly deserves.
Surprisingly, the Bitter SC was sold in the United States during its production starting from 1984. The total number of cars sold in America is unknown, but it was not large, because it was sold only in a handful of Buick dealerships, mostly around New York City. But if you really want a Bitter SC, you can probably find it in the US, or import one from Europe, because all those cars are over 25 years old.
The price range may be anywhere from 10 to 30,000 US dollars, but it's difficult to estimate, because not so many cars are offered for sale. For example, one car was bid on Cars and Bids up to $23,000 in 2023, but didn't meet the reserve. But in general, this is a much lower price than you may expect for such a rare car. I believe that now there are fewer surviving examples of the Bitter SC than the Ferrari F40 and F50. And for comparison, the Ferrari F400, which was produced in much greater production numbers, goes now from 40 to 90,000 euros.
I believe that the Bitter SC now has a very good collectible potential, and if you have an opportunity to get hold of it for a low price, even in a project condition, do it. If you owned or drove a Bitter SC, I'd really love to learn about your personal experience in the comments below. And if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. New interesting stories are coming soon. Danke schön, mein Freunde, and see you next time.